This is the first in a series of new videos about deities I feel closest to. In these videos, I'll try to offer some factual information about each deity, but I always do that. And to be honest, I've already made videos like that about most of these deities. So I also want to offer some other kinds of depth. One thing is how I relate to various deities as a polytheist. Not how you should, just how I do. And if that doesn't take me far enough out of my comfort zone, I'm also going to include a short prayer or meditation each time. I'll put all these videos into a special playlist as they accumulate. At least that's the plan. So your encouragement to keep the project going will be appreciated. I always wonder how many Celtic polytheists there are in the world, and how many, like me, who began kind of independently before people were talking about it, or at least before I heard them talking about it. Back before the days of the internet, there was no way to instantly know what people in other places were getting up to. Neither Wicca or Celtic Reconstructionism were on my radar at all. I think I must have started with Belenos in about 1984. It was around the time I moved to Scotland permanently. And there were other pagans around, but they seemed to be more interested in esoteric and magical stuff. It wasn't quite what I was looking for. I was looking for Celtic gods. Having found books like Anne Ross's Pagan Celtic Britain, historical but not instructional, I decided to just wing it. Belinos seemed like a good bet. I mean, everybody needs a sun god, right? That was my simplistic level of thinking at the time. I also picked Lugh and Brigid, three deities to get me started. Except I had no idea how to start, and sometimes I still feel that way. I think the most important thing I did in those days was to speak the names of the gods out loud. Belinos in particular. I wonder how often Belinos had heard his name spoken with reverence over the past couple of thousand years. It's impossible to fully understand the nature of the gods, so it's hard to know whether that even matters, but I suspect that it does. Even today, Celtic polytheism is small, and in the grand scheme of things, its revival is very new. Sometimes I think we're still kind of in the phase of reawakening the gods or renewing mutual communication via a network which needs a lot of upgrading. What I mean is that we haven't yet developed an accepted way of relating to our gods. And I feel like they're also kind of listening to see how we're going to do this. I mean, imagine if some old broken telephone in your house that you thought was probably obsolete suddenly started ringing. Is it a fluke? Does the equipment still work? Are they going to install new lines? I think the gods are probably happy to hear the phone ring and to find us at the other end, but I suspect that they might be a little skeptical about us too. I've said before that I believe that as more people take an interest in Celtic deities, then deities are more likely to be interested in those interested people, especially if we stick to it. Anyway, Belinos. So there used to be a lot of talk about sun gods, and most people interpreted that Bel prefix to mean bright and continued with the assumption that he was all about the sun. And the same went for the holiday Beltane. People just assumed that Belinos and Beltane went together. And this is where I'd better say that Beltane is the Scots pronunciation for a holiday that's been popular in Scotland for many centuries. It's used in England too. I know that in Irish it's Bealtaine, and in Scottish Gaelic it's pronounced Bealtin, and in Wales it's called Callan Mai. Honestly, a lot of the time, I just call it May Day. That works too. As a newly minted 1980s pagan, I just assumed that Beltane celebrated Belinos, who was sometimes called Bel, and everybody knew that he was a sun god. Do I still believe that? Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure it's as far off the mark as some people are making out. Without too much of a history lesson, In the 19th and early 20th century, anthropologists and other writers saw sun gods everywhere. Everything was about the sun, the crops, and fertility. Sometime in the mid 20th century, people realized that things weren't that simple and that the polytheistic religions of Europe were more nuanced than that. Suddenly, sun gods were out of fashion, replacing the sun gods and corn maidens were the much more psychologically centered archetypes and heroes' journeys. Well, it was the mid 20th century. After all, it was all about us and what was in our minds. That stuff is beginning to fall out of fashion now, too. But both scholars and pagans are still a bit embarrassed about the whole, oh, every other god is a sun god thing. So, in cases where it might actually fit, or it might at least be part of the story, I think people just look for other interpretations because they don't want to be laughed at. A few years ago, I decided it was time to do some research on whether I was badly in error by following my gut about Belenos and Beltane. Several days of research and 2,000 words later, I had failed to completely debunk the Belinos Beltane connection, but I couldn't fully prove it either. I'll put a link to the full 2,000 words on that in case you'd like to read it. If you're enjoying this series, why not take one of my online classes? There's almost always something on offer. Some classes have tiered pay what you can pricing, and there are usually a few scholarships available for the more expensive classes. To get notifications about classes and about scholarships when they're announced, you can go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter, or follow me on my Patreon page. We can at least be sure that people used to worship a god called Belenos. There are something like 50 inscriptions to him in Gaul and Britain. I just want to say thanks here to Belinus Betuliknos for letting me share this fabulous map with you. There was a major cult of Belinos around Aquileia, which is down between Venice and Trieste. Aquileia is just a sleepy little town known for its Roman ruins today, but during the Roman era it was a city of 100,000. Belinos wasn't restricted to the area around Aquileia, though. He was worshipped up in Norica, in modern-day Austria, around Marseille, down in the south of France, and there are isolated mentions of his name throughout Gaul. Linguists haven't reached much agreement about what the name means. Bel could certainly mean bright or shining, or even white or pale, and this is where the sun god idea comes from. So it could refer to the sun, but that doesn't necessarily make Belinos a deity who is like the sun personified, or who in some way controls the sun. It might be more about the sun's attributes of light and warmth. These are attributes often connected with health and healing, which the Celts combined with the healing attributes of water, especially water from springs. It seems like Celtic deities who have that set of associations often got syncretized with the Roman Apollo, and that's the case with Belinos. Another possible understanding of the name is that it relates to power or force, and that fits well with a story about Belinos from Aquileia. Back in the year 238, the political situation in Rome was very unstable, so much so that it's known as the Year of the Six Emperors. Everyone wanted to make a bid for power. One player was called Maximinus Thrax. He set out from Pannonia with his army headed for Rome, but when he came to Aquileia, he met some resistance. He laid siege to the city, but the people of Aquileia were well supplied with food, and Maximinus' army was not. Buoyed up by their prophet's assurance that they could defeat Maximinus' army, the Aquileians refused to surrender, and after Maximinus was defeated, his men claimed that they often saw Belinos in the sky above Aquileia, helping to defend it. It's also been suggested that the name Belinos could be associated with the plant henbane, which is called Belenuntia by the Gauls and Apollinaris in Latin. Henbane is associated with visions and prophecy, although we can't be sure that it really has anything to do with Belinos. It's just another theory. The theories about the name Belinos are complicated by the inscriptions to him. The variations in spelling are only the beginning. It often happens that old inscriptions are incomplete, The stones are often broken, chipped, or badly weathered, and the stone carvers used a lot of abbreviations. Many abbreviations have well-known meanings, but not all of them. Most inscriptions were catalogued in the 19th century by antiquarians who read them based on their best guess, and sometimes they had biases and theories of their own, which may have influenced those guesses. Meanwhile, a lot of the inscribed stones have gone missing since the inscriptions were recorded, and some inscriptions may also refer to people named after the god. Another way to look at Celtic deities from this period is to ask whether they have cognates in Irish or Welsh mythology. It's widely thought that Bellymawr in Wales and Bele in Ireland may be related to Belinos. Neither Bele nor Bellymawr really have mythology of their own, though. Bellymawr is seen as the ancestor of deities like Llŷth and Llywelys, Arianrhod, but also as an ancestor of some legendary mortals. The Irish Bele is understood as a Galician king, the father of Miel of Spain, who leads the ancestors of the Gaels to settle in Ireland. Like Bellymawr, he doesn't really have a story of his own. He's just there in the background, and it's easy to see both of them as an echo of a distant but important deity who isn't fully remembered but is still seen as important. I've put together a sheet with links and references if you'd like to do some more research on Belinos. You'll find a link where you can download it for free below this video. It's hard to explain how I relate to Belinos. I'm not really a sun lover. I prefer winter and cloudy skies. I'm more of a child of Manannán in many ways. Give me a misty island over Mediterranean sunshine any day, and maybe that's one reason I need contact with Belinos, because he helps keep me in balance. He reminds me that the warmth and brightness of the sun give us light and health. Once, when I was feeling really sorry for myself during a hot summer when I had to work outdoors a lot, I felt Belinos saying to me, "You know, you like the heat of the fire in winter. You're always beside the fire warming yourself. This isn't really that different." Whether that's a super logical answer is debatable, but it was a useful reminder that the warmth of the sun is important to us, even now when the climate is getting too hot. I see Belinos as a source of warmth and light and healing. I often think of him when I have that "I really need to be outdoors" feeling. I like living in northern places, and I often think of Belinos when I'm enjoying sitting out in that kind of filtered, watery sunshine, which still feels great, but it isn't hot. But I also think of him up in the sky, defending the people of Aquileia, and what a powerful ally he can be. The photo on your screen is an offering bowl with an inscription to Belinos, which was found near Marseille. The inscription reads, "Giliachos, son of Proexios, has given this to Belinos." I'll leave it on the screen while we meditate on Belinos for a few moments and send him a little prayer. Think of the light and warmth of the sun, or even of a warm fire on a cold day. The light can lift our mood, and the warmth relaxes us, brings us healing. Sitting beside the water, or drinking water from a spring, even taking a warm bath, or quietly enjoying a hot drink can be so comforting. I think these are good examples to bring us a little closer to Belinos. I'm going to leave a little bit of silence in a moment for you to just breathe and reach out if you want to. You might like to just say Belinos out loud a few times if you're in a place where you can do that. And then I'll finish up with a little prayer. Belenos, Belenos, Belinos. Bright Belinos, healer and defender, I offer you my praise and devotion. I thank you for guiding me to warmth when I'm cold and to light when I'm in darkness. Belinos, wrap us in your comfort. Belinos, defend us with your power. Bright Belinos, we offer you thanks. Bright Belinos, we praise you. May you bring us balance. May your name always be spoken, O Belinos.